Okay guys, so we are going to do, in my opinion, what's the best upgrade on a Trek Marlin. This is a Marlin 6. Again, it doesn't really matter. And that is a hub change. The hub on this bike, and really on most bikes from the factory, are really bad. I mean, they hold up okay, but there's very little points of engagement. So when I spin this thing, there's very few points of engagement, so there's lots of gaps, you know, when you're pedaling, and makes it difficult to really just ride fast or ride uphill. So what are we doing? I have an old hub here, and the Marlin, just to let you know really fast, is 135 millimeter width. It is a quick release, so you need to use, you know, a quick release, you know, either hub again, or you do like a 10 millimeter or 3/8 hub, and that's what I'm going to do. And of course, this is 32 spokes, so obviously I'm going to use another 32 spoke. But I'm going to do this as easily and as cheaply as possible. So what am I going to use? I'm going to use this right here, which I had, which is way better. It's a profile classic mountain bike hub. You know, notice it still has the disc attachment. Obviously, you know, it's going to sit on the bike. Let me show you here. It's going to sit on the bike like this. The cassette, 10-speed cassette, is going to go back on it, which was on this bike. So I've kind of verified that everything's going to work. And notice it has just straight axles, so that will work with the same, you know, dropout scenario. But this one has a lot better points of engagement. You can hear the difference there as I spin it, and it just works so much better. I have another one of these on my dirt jumper. I really like it. I mean, it's night and day difference. It makes the bike feel like a completely different bike. Now, what's really cool is, if you look at the flanges on this thing, again, this is the Profile Classic mountain bike hub in 135 millimeter width. If you notice, the flanges, and it's kind of hard to see here, are the same height. They're actually the same width, okay? Which means what? I'm going to be able to use the same spoke length, and I'm going to be able to use the same rim. Literally, all I'm going to swap out is this hub. I'm going to use the same nipples. I'm going to use everything. I'm going to clean it up a little bit before I put it all back together, but everything's going to be the same, again, other than the hub here. So that's why I say it's very inexpensive. Now, this hub, just to let you know, I had this laying around for a long time, and I think it's the best use of the hub to put it on my son's bike here. But this hub retails, basically as you see it here, this is an older hub, but they still make it for $252. And then there's sales tax on that, and then a little bit of shipping. It's made right here in the USA in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm a big fan of Profile. Basically have 4 other bikes with Profile hubs, either Elites or Minis or the classic mountain bike hubs. So now they run, you can actually have it just like this with the axle sticking out, or you can do a bolt-on style male axles. I probably prefer those the most, but there's a bunch of different ways you can order this thing. And what's cool is, this is 32 hole on my dirt jumper, and I'll show you it real fast. On my dirt jumper, I've got a single speed setup. As you can see, I've got the bolt-on axles, the male axles, and I have 36 hole. So this is a 36 hole hub, 36 spoke wheel, so that's even stronger. So it's a dirt jumper, so I wanted to build it bulletproof. But the 32 hole works just fine. And again, we're trying to keep this as cheap a build as possible. So basically, you can buy this for $252, swap everything out. We're going to show you how you can true it pretty easily on the bike, okay, believe it or not. And for that price, you can have a really sweet setup. So what I'm going to do next, and I want to show you this, is I like to obviously take the tire and tube out and everything, and take this little, you know, band off, little protective band. And what I do is I loosen up all the spokes. You want to loosen up the spokes one by one using a spoke wrench. I was going to show you my wrench here. Just got a spoke wrench here. So I loosen them up all one by one until they're loose. And then you can come behind here with either a screwdriver or I'll use a drill and just spin all the nipples off, okay? And that's the quick way to do it, because notice I mounted it back in the bike and I can just zip every one of these off really, really fast. Again, throw them in my little parts bin here. And again, we're going to reuse them. So that's the quick way to do it. I'll zip them again off and then take the wheel off, take everything apart, and then put it back together. And I'll show you how to do that, because it's actually not hard to build a wheel. This is a 3-cross pattern, and believe it or not, it's anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Even if, and this is what you can do, even if you say, you know what, I don't feel confident truing it, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to true it without even using a truing stand. But if you say, you know what, I don't want to do that, I built this wheel. It's all brand new parts, and I got it really, really close and trued, and then I took it to a shop and I had them do the final tension and truing for $5. So it was literally $5 because I was so close. They just did a quick, like half a turn around the whole thing, did a couple little adjustments, and it was good to go. So you can always do that final truing anywhere from $5 to $20 at a shop. And I'll show you at the very least how you can get it really close, okay? Another thing I'm going to have you notice here before we take this all apart is the center of the rim is in the center of the flanges, okay? What that tells me is that it's not in the center of the axle. Look at how it's not in the center of the axle. It's in the center of the flanges. You want to pay attention to that on whatever bike you're doing, because that tells me that the spoke lengths, the flanges are number one, the same length. That tells me that. And it also tells me that the spokes are the same length from left to right. We're using everything the same, so it doesn't matter. But that's going to be key, because notice, if I look at this profile hub here from end of axle to end of axle, the flanges are not in the center. Can you see how everything's shifted a little bit to the left? But the rim will be in the center of the flanges. Okay, so that's key. I'm just telling you that because there are some rims where the center of the rim is actually centered with the axle, which means one side of the spokes will be a little shorter than the other. But this thing is centered perfectly within the flanges. It's going to be very straightforward to get it, set up again. So I'm just showing you that. Stay tuned as we start to build this thing. Okay guys, so this is where we're at right now. I just didn't show you the process because it's really not difficult. It just takes about 10 to 15 minutes to basically unscrew each nipple. And then of course I take the wheel off the bike, and just kind of like when the nipples are all loose, I just kind of pull the nipples off the rim, and then pull all the nipples off. And then once they are off, then of course the hub and the spokes would just kind of fall right out. And then I just fish the spokes out basically one by one. And so we've got everything ready to go. So this is basically what we are eliminating. Wow, and this is heavier too. So these are brass nipples. I think that's kind of cool. A lot of people use the alloy. Brass are a little bit stronger, a little heavier, but a little stronger. So again, this is what we are eliminating. So we won't need the skewer anymore. So no quick release, and of course no hub. So just wanted, but it's still good. If this bike ever gets sold, I may throw it back on there. We'll see. Who knows? But we're going to go through the process of lacing it here in just a few minutes. I'm going to clean these up a little bit so everything's dirty from ride. So stay tuned. Okay guys, let me show you the alignment real fast. You can see things line up really nicely, hub for hub. These flanges are the same height, definitely the same width. Might be hard to see on camera. And just to show you, say, well, will this go right in? This will go, let me show you here, right in the dropout. Look at that. Just there's no like fitting, grinding, anything. It's just a perfect fit right in the dropout, because it's 135 millimeter width, which is going to be for your cross-country bikes, most of them anyway. Now again, if you're wanting to do this same thing, let's say on a different bike, like I've got a 2016 Scott Genius. Let me show you that real fast. This has 142 millimeter width. So you would just order the profile hub, of course, in the 142 millimeter width, which you can do. Or if you wanted boost, you just order it in boost. And if you're going 148 or super boost, which is even bigger than that, wider than that, you can do that. And that's what's so nice. Profile lets you basically customize these things really, really well. And pretty much they have everything in stock. I think I ordered this, of course I live in Florida and I live about 1 hour away from the factory. So if I order on a Monday, I usually get it on a Wednesday. I mean, can't beat that. But the quality is great. These are all rebuildable. Every single part for this can be ordered really easily from Profile in St. Petersburg, Florida. And again, I have really, and I've owned some older hubs by Profile, and this one's old too, by the way. Never really ever had to rebuild anything. They don't, other than maybe cleaning them occasionally. They're bulletproof. So anyways, stay tuned as we put this thing together. Okay guys, we're back and we're going to do lacing process. And a couple things real quick. There are times when you may not be able to see this because I just have to prop it up, but I like to dip my spokes, the tip of my spokes, in some oil, and that is just so everything will go on nice and smoothly. And in the future, you can tighten or loosen or remove. I didn't feel like these had that on it. And so they were kind of difficult to take off. They came off okay, the nipples came off the spokes okay, but they were creaking and popping, some of them. So the oil is a big benefit. Sometimes people will pour some down in the nipple. That works too. We're just trying to get things lubricated a little bit. The other thing is, it's actually, doing this 3-cross pattern is, I would say, the most common pattern. I could be wrong with that, but I think it is. And it's very strong, and whether it's a 28, a 32, or 36 spoke wheel, the process is exactly the same. There's basically 4 spokes that work together, and, working in bundles to hold the rim. So if you've got a 32 spoke rim like this one, you're going to have, think about it, 8 bundles of 4. So 8 times 4 is 32. If it's a 36 hole, then you're going to have 9 bundles of 4. So it's the same process, basically. It's just you're going to have to do, in a sense, if it's a 28 hole, you have less to do. If it's a 32 hole, you got to do basically 4 more spokes, right? 1 more bundle, 4 more spokes. If it's a 36 hole, then you got to do it yet again. So that kind of helps you. So it's really the same process. It is true 36 is stronger than a 32, a 32 stronger than a 28. That doesn't mean you can't make a 32 strong, right? Or even maybe a 28. This can be a plenty strong wheel. Also, the way I just explained it to you is not the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the way that I think is the easiest. There are a bunch of different ways to do it. Some people think you have to put all the spokes in one side, lace it that way, and then do the other side. I go back and forth. That's the way I like to do it. Again, it's up to you. Some people like to start with the drive side. I'll go ahead and do that because it's fine. And again, some people are real picky about making sure your logo, and this one has logo all the way around, so I just don't think it's a big deal. Your logo shows with the valve stem hole. Again, that's just preference stuff. It has nothing to do, with, here's my valve stem hole. That has nothing to do with function. So let's get started though. And what we're gonna do is I'll kind of walk you through as we're gonna do this here. Now the first go around is we're going to go from the outside, and we're going to more or less put all the spokes in. Okay, I'm going to start with this drive side, and we're going to skip a hole each time. So let's see if I can do this here. We're going to go, obviously there should be 8 of them. Okay. And some of these are a little straighter than others. I think the drive side had straighter spokes, it was a little looser. So I may go with those again just to kind of keep everything the way it was. Whether that matters or not, I doubt it. Again, this was one I believe on the non-drive side, so I'll just, why not? I'll just put what I think was on the drive side. I wouldn't bother yourself too much with this. Now I'm going to start, you should really always start from the valve stem hole, and the spoke you're going to put in first, it really doesn't matter which one it is, you're going to start with the one to the left, which you can probably see from back here, to the left of the valve stem hole. So that's what we're going to again start with. Okay, so I'm going to have to move this around a little bit to make it easier on me, but that's the way we're going to start. Okay, we're just going to kind of stick it through there. Again, in the beginning, this isn't real pretty, but you're just gonna, it doesn't really matter. You're just gonna kind of spin that on there. And then what are we gonna do? We are gonna skip 3 holes and go into the 4th hole for the next one. And again, you may not be able to see all this on video, but I'm just gonna go through it here. And this is basically where we need to be. So notice I've stuck them in the outside. I've gone through the outside, okay? And I've put a spoke in every other hole. So now that I'm looking down at this hub flange, I should see spoke, no spoke, spoke, no spoke, spoke, no spoke. So we basically got 1 hole between spokes. And that's the way we're gonna basically do it every time. Over here, and I'm gonna put it right back to where we were. This is my, in case you can't see it, this was my valve hole. And notice, like I said, I put the first one to the left. This is from my perspective, right? To the left of the valve hole, okay? And then I skipped 3 holes, 1, 2, 3. Skipped and put it in the 4th. Skipped another 3, 1, 2, 3. Put it in the 4th. Skip 3, 4th, you can see I skip 3 here, skip 3 here, skip 3 here, skip 3 here, and then skip 3 there. So it's all the way it's supposed to be. And again, I just screwed the nipples on a little bit. We're not trying to get everything perfect. You want them nice and loose. So then what do? Well, notice the wheel is going to have to be rotated. Now notice this is my valve stem hole. And the way you're going to rotate is, if you started like I started with the spoke to the left of the valve stem hole, which is what ours is. This is the rule. If the spoke is to the left of the valve stem hole, then you rotate to the left. What does that mean? See this here? I'm going to rotate my hub, and it's nice if you can get all of these nipples to pop in. There we go. There we go. They're not all even at this point, but that's okay. But I'm rotating it to the left of, see how it's rotated like that? I'm rotating it to the left, toward the left, toward this first spoke. So it's a left-hand turn. Now let's say you did it the other way, and it was you started over here, then you rotate it to the right. But again, with the way we started, this spoke that we started with is to the left of the valve stem hole, so again, we're going to rotate it to the left. Then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to keep it rotated, okay? Take it, I'm going to flip it upside down. Notice I've still got it rotated. This is going to be important for our pattern, and I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, I'm going to start right here again. This is our valve stem hole again, okay? And guess what we're going to do? We're going to take our spokes, we're going to go from the outside in again, and we're gonna lace it again to this very first one to the left of the valve stem hole again, okay? Gonna do the exact same thing. And they're actually gonna go the same direction. Now, where do you start? You actually start, this is the best one to start with. See the one I actually started, if you can visualize it here, because it was upside down. This was the first one I started with. I'm gonna start with this one. I'm gonna follow it back, and where I follow it back, there is that spoke and there's a hole. I'm gonna go in the hole right between the two of them. If I hold it here, it's almost in perfect alignment, but it's offset just a little bit. It's actually right between a spoke and another hole to the left of it. I'm going in that spoke hole right between them. I'm going in there and I'm putting it again in this first hole to the left.
What we do here is go back.
Okay, guys, we got the lacing pattern all done for, one side then the other. Notice I flipped it back over and I'm back to the starting position again. So I'm back to where we started. This is the drive side flange. So this is exactly, the point of basically where we started. We just did, if you remember, we did first, we did this side, then we kept it twisted, we flipped it over, we did the other side, and now I'm back to the original side again. And this is what I want to show you. Now we're going to feed all of the spokes up through the flange, right? Before we went through the outside, now we're going through the inside. And this is where the pattern starts to take place. I'm gonna pick a hole. I just picked any hole. Picked a hole because we're gonna have one set of holes left, okay? Gonna feed it up through. And this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go over a spoke, under a spoke. That's the pattern. So over, under. So watch how we're gonna do this here. So I'm going, it's kind of hard to see maybe, but this spoke is being crossed over barely, okay? This one's being crossed over and this one's gonna go under. So over, under. So you just kind of loop it under like this and it's gonna go in that hole right there. Stick a nipple through, okay? And you gotta have to kind of move these around. Sometimes it may not feel like it wants to fit perfectly, but it's just because nothing is finished. Okay, next hole. Gonna go up through. Same thing. Over, under. Go under. Okay, and that is one side. That is a completed side. Okay, so obviously now we're gonna flip it over. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna be a little loosey-goosey here. We're gonna do the exact same thing to the last side. We're gonna feed it up through. Okay, pick one to start, doesn't matter which one. And we're gonna do the same process. And something I may not have mentioned, but same thing, we're gonna go over, under. Notice each time we do these last two final sides, we're going in a cross pattern. Obviously, to go over, under, we're gonna have to obviously go the opposite direction. I didn't mention that, but that's the only way you can go over it, and under it. You're gonna have to go in a cross pattern. Okay guys, got this back on the bike. I just kind of bolted it in, putting it in place. It's gonna be really off right now, okay? So what am I gonna do next is I'm gonna tighten up each nipple just with screwdriver right here. And I'm gonna tighten them evenly. And the way you do that is you just tighten them until you can't see. Let me see if I can do this so you can see it. You just tighten them, you probably can't see this, but you tighten them until you can't see the threads on the spoke anymore. So each one, right when the nipple covers the last thread, you stop. And you're gonna go around and do that, and that'll make it even. And then from there, it's a matter of just tightening a little at a time. From there, usually I'll do maybe 1 full turn for each nipple, maybe 2 full turns. You know, it's just gonna depend on how tight the spokes are, and start the truing process from there. So when I get to that point, I'll talk to you more about it. Okay, so stay tuned. Okay guys, so let me show you what you can do here. You can put some zip ties and you try to get them even. Now on the Trek Marlin, the right side is a little bit wider, I don't know if you know this or not, than the left. Why is that? Because the room for the cassette. So I usually just put some zip ties on here, and I make the left zip tie a little shorter than the right. So this right zip tie, it's hard to see, I apologize, but it's not cut. See, the left one is trimmed a little bit. You can see that, okay? And then, you know, the truing process is just something that takes practice and work. But, you know, as you tighten it, and I went through this wheel, I tightened it 1 full turn, and then I ended up having to go back and probably do another full turn at least to get some good tension on the spokes. And then I went through, I didn't go through all the details because you really just have to watch a video on the truing process. I just watched wherever the sways were, and I tightened or loosened spokes as needed. Now I put this one here, this longer one. What I usually do is do this here, and this checks for hop. So when you spin the wheel, you know, I get this down. Let me see if I can do this here. Get it just kind of close like this. Get it real close, and then I spin it and look for hop. And wherever there's a hop, there's still a little hop in it. Wherever there's a hop, I would tighten those spokes in that spot to bring it lower. So, and the truth is, you got to go back and forth. You got to tighten for hop. You got to tighten for trueness, left and right. Tighten for hop, trueness, left. You got to go back and forth. It's a back and forth motion, and you can spend hours on it if you want, but you know, you just get it to a point where it looks good. Now let me see if we can, let me show you here, get this back out of the way, and we'll try to line these up. Let's see, good enough, and we'll show you how straight we got this thing. You can see it's nice and straight. It's a little hop in it. If you go this way, you can watch the wheel. The wheel's really nice and straight. I mean, that's as good as it's, you know, really going to get without a lot of work, and the spokes are really tight. Now on a 29er, you got to get the spokes nice and tight. Everything's centered really nicely too, so it's going to work out good. But like I said, you can go to a shop, get them to do the final truing, and it'll be great. But I'm going to get everything back on, and we'll show you what it looks like at the end. All right, guys, there's the finished product. It came out so nice. And not only does it sound better, Profile Hub always sounds great. There it is there. But there's so many more points of engagement. So now you're not dealing with this really sloppy hub. Now when you're coasting and you go to pedal, boom, you get instant engagement, or at least much closer to instant engagement. And again, this is the classic mountain bike hub by Profile Racing. If you want to go a step above that, spend like maybe $200 more, get the Profile Elite, which is my favorite. I'll show you what that sounds like. Big difference. Got an Elite on this bike. This thing is incredible. Now if you want true instant engagement, go for the Elite. Okay, here's another Elite, just to show you. Really, really awesome. So, hope that helps. Hope you guys get the opportunity to do this upgrade. Take care.